a monster, a villain, a serial killer so notorious that he is responsible for the deaths of hundreds, no, thousands of people. And to this day, he still roams the world, trying to stay hidden and out of sight. He mostly wants to be left alone, but his crimes are so horrific that he is the subject of many horror movies, many manhunts with law enforcement agencies. He even managed to get into space where he continued to unalive any and everyone who got in his way. But somehow, he always ends up back at Camp Crystal Lake. This is the story of Jason Voorhees, the scariest dead man walking and one of the friendliest monsters you will ever meet. You don't want to miss this story of monster meets boy. It will shock you back to compassion. Sometimes the most unlikeliest people, well, technically speaking, the most unlikeliest dead zombie horror movie slasher, straight out the grave monster, can become a hero. And for this little boy, the real monster was neuroblastoma, a cancer, and Jason Voorhees was his friend. And in a time of pain, Jason Voorhees, yes, that Jason Voorhees and his signature hockey mask took away this little boy's fear. That's right, a little boy who had nightmares turn into a reality of a heartwarming and compassionate story of love that embraced the whole nation. And this is a story worth telling, so you should stick around to hear it, because at the end of the day, sometimes we need to hear that there is good that can come out of bad, or sometimes the most horrific things can turn into something that someone needs in their most lowest point. And sometimes, just like in this story, fear is going to be driven away by fear itself. This isn't the first time that Jason Voorhees took away a little boy's fear. You see, it happened in a comic book story arc where a little boy was being bullied and even drowned, and good old Jason, with his iconic hockey mask, casually walked up to save the day. Of course, he doesn't wear a cape like Superman or swing in a web like Spider-Man, but he does have his trademark machete. That's right, Jason has his machete. So when he comes in, there's no cape, there's no claws like Wolverine, but there's his machete. That's right. And he comes in and he starts hacking away all the bullies. That's definitely awesome or creepy, depending on where you stand on the matter. Anyway, you be the judge. But yeah, in a comic book, Jason saves a boy from being bullied and drowned. You got to keep in mind, Jason himself was bullied and drowned. So when the comic book, when Jason saw that the little boy was being bullied and drowned, Jason remembered and recollected on what happened to him at the very same Crystal Lake where this little boy, who decades and decades later is having the very same thing that happened to Jason happen to him. So Jason walks up, and of course he does what Jason does. He slaughters all the bullies. And he carries the little boy away, in his arms. Little boy's passed out, and Jason brings the little boy with him along for a journey, and the little boy goes with Jason on the journey. What little boy wouldn't want to go on a journey with Jason Voorhees? You know what I mean? So Jason even feeds the boy, and the boy thinks that Jason is the best host he's ever had. I mean, he is hanging out with a horror movie icon and a dead man walking, like we said earlier. Jason is a dead and decrepit, deformed man underneath that mask. But somehow he's winning the heart of this little boy. But, and this is a big but, he actually comforted the little boy. I mean, yes, that Jason showed sympathy and compassion. Not certain if the comic little boy grows up to be Jason's protege or not, but it's very well possible. Fast forward to 2021, and Jason Voorhees finds out through the horror world's decayed grapevine that another little boy is in need of his assistance, and another mean bully needs to be dealt with. This time, the bully is formidable and very, very, very evil. Yes, much eviler than even Jason himself. It was a cancer, and it was attacking a sweet 5-year-old boy named Declan McComb. So in 2021, during the pandemic, a popular cosplayer named Steel City Jason suited up and made his way to Declan. Declan had said, and I paraphrase, that he knew Jason wouldn't be scared of cancer. If that doesn't touch your heart, I don't know what can. And of course, he was right, because as soon as Jason saw Declan, he gave him the sweetest and warmest hug any horror movie villain can give to a sweet child. They sat down and laughed and smiled. Well, we all believe that if anyone could have made Jason smile underneath that mask, it was Declan. Jason came to fight and destroy the true villain, cancer. But instead of fighting, he began falling in love with an innocent boy who needed a friend, who wasn't afraid to love him back in his most vulnerable moments. Jason never talks. We all know that. But in this moment, the friends embraced to say their goodbyes. And Declan told Jason he loves him. And Jason responded, "I love you too, little buddy, and I'm praying for you." What more needs to be said except that Declan succumbed to his cancer and left to be with Jesus in eternity? That's what I believe. And this is the type of stories we embrace on the Pen and the Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube. So give me a like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you know when I'm going to drop another interesting and awesome story like this one. Steel City Jason meets Declan McComb. A story that should never be forgotten. And every so often, someone like myself should take the time to cover the story so that you, the viewer, can just have a moment to remember this awesome moment where a horror movie villain comforted a sick and dying little boy in his most vulnerable time of need. And it's a sweet and tragic, you could say a bittersweet moment, but it's also a beautiful moment. A moment that's always going to captivate the hearts of people. It'll always captivate my heart. I will always remember this story. I know what it's like to be bullied. Jason knew what it's like to be bullied. And Declan, he knew what it was like to be bullied by cancer. And Jason came to warm his heart. And this is just a beautiful story. And I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. And as we begin to wrap this video up, I'm going to put the picture of Declan and Jason in the warmest embrace ever between a sweet little boy and a horror movie icon. Man, give me a like and subscribe. Let's get it.